Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Now this information I'm about to tell y'all is really gonna have everybody rethinking this whole coaching staff. Now I came across a post early this morning on X, and the moment I saw it, I knew we had to talk about it. In the process of me coming across this post, I noticed the word resume. And normally when people see a resume, they automatically assume the person is qualified because the credentials look impressive on paper. But here's the thing, when you got a good resume that stands for itself, the work don't always speak for itself. Sometimes the resume looks incredible, but the results leave people asking serious questions. Now, that brings me back to this coaching staff, because if we're being honest, a lot of fans have been debating whether the results are matching the experience listed on paper. Now, let's pull it up right now, man. So, like I stated, I came across this post and it was the Fever coaching staff resume. Now, there is a caption to go with this, but before we get into the caption, I want to read the resume itself. It says, "The coaching resume explained the chaos. Indiana Fever assistant coach's experience check." First, let's start with Brianne January, assistant coach, limited coaching resume. Let's read Brianne January's resume. She joined Arizona State women's basketball staff as an assistant coach in 2017, while still continuing her WNBA career. So she not only played in the WNBA, she was also an assistant coach, I believe, during the offseason. Then she joined the Connecticut Sun coaching staff as a WNBA assistant coach. Guess under who? Stephanie White for the 2023 and 2024 seasons. Then she returned to the Indiana Fever as, guess what, an assistant coach. Now, her primary coaching resume before Indiana consisted of assistant roles at Arizona State and Connecticut. Now, I can see if she had like a higher position, I think she may be qualified because she's always been an assistant coach, so she might have the resume for that one. So we're gonna give her a little grace. Now let's do Karima Christmas Kelly. Now she's an assistant coach, now Sin coaching background. Now it goes on to say she joined the Fever coaching staff in 2023 under Christy Sides, now returned to the Fever bench for the 2024 season. Now she was retained by Stephanie White for the 2025 season. Now something we have been noticing about the Indiana Fever is that they do a lot of good old boy system. And hate to say it, gotta be honest, Christmas Kelly is part of the good old boy system. She was here, she got a lot of history with the Indiana Fever, so they kept her. Now, her playing resume is legit. Coaching resume remains limited for the Caitlin Clark era. That is, look, that last part remains limited for the Caitlin Clark era. This is why the Fever does so bad. They have a generational type player that do not have a Phil Jackson coaching staff. When you got somebody like Caitlin Clark, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, you gotta have not just an explosive front office, you have to have a dynasty-like coaching staff. They don't have that. I think we all could agree on that. No disrespect to Brianne January or Christmas Kelly, but we need an elite coaching staff. We have elite, superstar, generational talent. And last but not least, let's get to Austin Kelly. Now, he was an assistant coach, thin coaching background. Now, his resume is a little long, but let's read it. He's a former college football player, not a former college or professional basketball player. So already, not to say he might not know basketball because he did play football, you can't just say that, bro, because there's a lot of multi-sport athletes back in high school, bro. Like Drew Hanlon. I bet you guys never knew this. Drew Hanlon, I went to high school with him. I know him. Drew Hanlon was a football quarterback before he ever played basketball. So you can't sit up here and say that just because you play football. You might not know basketball. Drew trains some of the best players in the world now, but y'all might not know Drew played football through all of grade school. Drew didn't really start playing basketball for real till he got to high school. So that's just food for thought there. So I'ma give him a pass for that. Now, it goes on to say he began in basketball as a high school boys assistant coach at Kelly High School and South Cobb in Georgia. Now Georgia Tech women's basketball graduate assistant. Then he was an assistant scouting coordinator in 2018 and 2019. Then he was part of that Vanderbilt staff. Vanderbilt women's basketball director of recruiting under Stephanie White. You see a trend here. UT Arlington women's basketball assistant coach and recruiting coordinator from 2021 through 2023. Then he went back with Stephanie White as an assistant coach under, let's guess, Stephanie White.
Then he went back to Stephanie White, followed her to the Fever, and he's there now. Now, much of his resume is built around support, scouting, recruiting, and working under Stephanie White. So Austin Kelly's whole resume is Stephanie White. He done worked for her like 3 different damn times. He's her guy, and probably because he's not to say he is a yes man, but he very much could be a yes man. This is bad. We're talking about a generational type player.
Now, shout out to Sports Patriot. He captioned this: "This should scare the hell out of every Fever fan. Stephanie White should have hired people strong enough to cover her weaknesses. Instead, she hired people who may not even recognize them. If I were Caitlin Clark's dad, agent, Lisa Bluter, or anyone who helped build her into the player she has become, I would be furious. She went from elite structure, elite development, and elite basketball minds to a professional staff that looks completely unprepared for the magnitude of the Caitlin Clark era." Now, I want to go back to that second paragraph because that part really stood out to me. It stated, "If I was Caitlin Clark's dad, agent, Lisa Bluter, or any of the people who helped build her into the player she became, I would be furious." And honestly, you can understand why some people would feel that way. Lisa Bluter played a massive role in Caitlin Clark's development at Iowa. She gave her the freedom to play her game, trusted her decision-making, trusted her as a ball handler, and trusted her basketball IQ every single time she stepped on the floor. That trust helped Caitlin Clark reach levels that many people never imagined possible. It helped turn her into one of the biggest stars in basketball. So when people look at the current situation, they start asking questions. They wonder why a player with that kind of talent isn't always being put in the best position to maximize her strengths. And that's why this conversation keeps getting louder. Somebody said, "I said her coaching staff is not experienced. Sky and the Lynx have better staff." Here said, "I've been saying for well over a year how badly I feel for her old man. He must be losing his mind." Somebody said, "You have to go read my article I just dropped." Somebody said, "I know it's an unfair comparison because Minnesota has a ridiculously elite coaching staff, starting with Cheryl Reeve, but here's the bios of the top assistants for the Lynx." Somebody said, "They did hire sports psychologists who require they journal every day so they can get in their heads." Here said, "I've compared Stephanie White to Lovie Smith, being a Bears fan. Lovie, like Stephanie, surrounds themselves with yes-men that have no business being assistants and can't adjust to personnel they have for their schemes." Somebody said, "I'm wondering about how Caitlin Clark's inner circle feels. They must be angry and horrified by what's going on. Just thinking about the workplace and how mishandled Caitlin Clark has been, there's got to be a violation somewhere." Look, here said, "It's a closed-minded group. There are no fresh ideas, no fresh looks at new things. It's almost a cult. No new ideas allowed. They are stuck in their decade. They repeat the same thing over and over and expect a different result. It certainly isn't how Apple was built." Somebody said, "Dunn and White surrounding themselves with coaches that are vastly inferior to SW. That is the management style of narcissistic, low-talent superiors. Good managers surround themselves with people that fill their weaknesses, none of them anything but enforcers for her stupidity." I didn't even read the all comments, and I was already thinking the exact same thing. There's a reason why these people are in those positions. A lot of fans are starting to wonder if anybody in that room is truly challenging Stephanie White, or if everybody is just nodding along and saying, "Yes, Stephanie, you're right," every single time. That's the concern people keep bringing up. Until this coaching staff proves otherwise, these questions are going to keep coming. Caitlin Clark deserves a dynamic, diverse, championship-caliber coaching staff that can maximize every part of her game and help this team reach its full potential. Until that happens, fans are going to keep applying pressure and demanding answers. Tell me what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.